Hello everyone, welcome to this video Software Testing Interview Questions Part 8. I'll recommend to watch all the videos up to Part 7 and then come to Part 8. Now, question number 71. Can you give the example of high severity and low priority bug? So we have two examples. A defect that raises in a functionality at a rare condition. For example, consider that an application works perfectly up to 15,000 sessions but crashes if the number of sessions increases. Here, the severity is high because the application crashes at a higher number of sessions, but the priority is low because, in general, the user will not frequently work with the higher number of sessions than expected. So, uh, 15,000 sessions is a large number for a particular user to use. So, it is uh, a problem, but if you see, user might not reach up to 15,000 sessions. That is why the priority of this bug is low, but the severity is high because the application crashes after that. Second example will be there is a module in the application which is very rarely used by the user, and the link to access the module is broken. So here the severity is high because the entire module is not accessible, and the priority is low because the user will not work on it in a frequent basis. So there are certain modules, or there might be a single module that user rarely uses. So it doesn't affect that much if the link to access the module is broken because the user does not work on it frequently or does not uses that module frequently. So the priority to fix that might be low, but the severity of the uh, bug is high because the entire module is not accessible. Next question is, what is the difference between waterfall and V model? Waterfall model is simple and easy to understand. In waterfall model, the next phase starts only after the current phase is complete. While in case of V model, uh, testing phases will be planned in parallel with the development phases. We know in case of V model, testers parallelly work with development team, but it doesn't mean they parallelly test the application. They parallelly prepare the plans to test the application while development teams develop the application. It is the extension of waterfall model. Second point would be waterfall model is considered as a continuous process as everything happens in a step-by-step way. In case of V model, it is a simultaneous process as development and testing teams work parallelly. So we know in case of waterfall model, we can't go to next phase until we complete the previous phase. And also the phase overlap is not possible in case of waterfall model. So in case of V model, everything is simultaneously. So waterfall model is less costly when compared to the V model, and V model is costly when it is compared to the waterfall model. So it is because in case of waterfall model, the testing team comes into picture only after the whole application is being developed. And in case of V model, the testing team and development team come in picture together. That is why V model is more costly than waterfall model because you need more resources. So you also need to pay those resources. In waterfall model, it is not possible for testing team to test the application before it is completely developed and delivered to the testing team. This makes it difficult to find the bugs in the application. Here, testing team comes into picture at the last or after completing the development process. That is why it is hard to find the bugs in the application. Some there might be some small bugs which uh, up to which we cannot treat easily because it has developed up, up to a certain level, and it might be a bigger bug by now. So it is very hard to find a bug in case of waterfall model. In case of V model, testing team and development teams parallelly work with each other, and they can test each and every phase, which will reduce the number of bugs in the application before the testing phases. Waterfall model is also called as linear sequential model, and V model is also called as verification and validation model. If you remember the diagram of V model, verification process is to the left of the shape V, and validation is to the right of the shape V. So it is also called as V and V model. Next question is, what do you mean by ad hoc testing? Ad hoc testing is also called as random testing, is a type of software testing in which the tester try to test the application without following any of the formal testing techniques. So there is no specific way or no specific technique to do. So this is ad hoc testing. Tester tries to test the entire application by using the random scenarios to find out any defects that may raise. Tester tries to test the application using any random test cases or any random inputs, any random scenarios, and they try to find out if any bug occurs while testing the application randomly. To perform ad hoc testing, we don't require any documentation or planning or test case design, etc. But the tester should have the complete understanding of the application. So we don't require any proper testing technique or any documentation to test the application, but we should have the understanding of the application while performing ad hoc testing. Ad hoc testing can be performed at any point of time whenever the tester wants to check the stability of the application, or whenever we don't have sufficient time to test each and every test cases on the application. When there are time constraints, or when there is a less time to test the application and we have to deploy it as early as possible. So in that case, we can use ad hoc testing. Next question is, what are the different statuses of the bug? So if you remember the exact process of bug life cycle, right from the uh, start of the, or right from the appearance of the bug up to the fixing it or retesting it. So you can easily remember these statuses of the bug. So these are like new, open, assigned, fixed, closed, reopen, rejected. Next question is, what do you mean by entry and exit criteria? If you remember the STLC process, then these entry and exit criteria come into picture. So entry criteria is nothing but a set of conditions that needs to be fulfilled in order to start testing the build. Simply, entry criteria tells us when we can start testing the application or build. So consider the example. If you want to uh, use, if you want to watch a movie, so there are some basic things you need while if you want to watch the movie. So if you want to watch it on your TV, then you need to have a working set top box. I mean working TV. Then you need to have maybe the cable connection, or maybe internet. If you're watching it on Android TV, then you need to have an internet for that. So these are some basic conditions to watch the movie, right? Similarly, entry criteria has some conditions. These conditions would be unit and integration tests should be completely completed as a part of development, and bugs found in the process should be fixed, and the build should be available in the test environment. So before the build comes to the testing team, so unit testing and integration testing should be completed. Then active bugs in the process should be fixed. There shouldn't be any active bugs, and the build should be available in the test environment. Uh, Test cases and test data should be ready. It is but obvious condition. I mean, test cases and test data should be ready to test the application. Test environment should be ready. It is also one of the important conditions. Uh, Testers should have the rights to test the application. This is also an important condition. So these are few entry criteria conditions before you test the application. Now exit criteria. Exit criteria is nothing but when to stop the testing. It is nothing but a set of conditions that needs to be fulfilled in order to complete testing the build. Simply, exit criteria tells us when testing the application or build is completed. So there are also different conditions to consider while we think of exit criteria. When all the test cases are executed and when all the identified bugs are fixed. It is first and most important conditions. When all the test cases you have are completed, then only you can stop the testing. And also when all the bugs you came across while testing the application are fixed. Second would be when the application reaches to the benchmark standard of the stability. So there are some benchmarks or some uh, standards while testing any application or while developing any application. So your application should reach up to that benchmark or up to that stability level. Then only we can say that the application is stable and it is tested fully. When the scheduled time is completed. So we all know there is some time fixed to test the application or to completely develop the application. There are certain time limits we have. Maybe maybe uh, then it may be the application developed in the agile process or maybe in any process. So there are certain time limits. So when the scheduled time is completed, then we can say the application is considered. Fourth point is when uh, sign off is received from the stakeholders or customers. So sign off is something that some work has been completed or some work is done now, and you can uh, do the further process. So when we receive some sign off letter from the stakeholders or the customers, then at that point we can also say that the application is tested or the process is done. So these are some conditions for exit criteria. Next question is, what will you do if developer continuously rejects a big bug reported by you? If the bug is valid, then reproduce it in different system and send a screenshot, then report a proper defect to a developer. Even if the even after this, if developer is not accepting, then we can send an email to respective developer regarding the issue and keeping it CC to the test lead, or we can escalate the issue in our daily meetings with the test lead manager. If he is continuously rejecting your bug, then reproduce it in different systems uh, and take a screenshot as a proof to report a proper defect. And after that also developer does not accept your bug, then email to the particular developer and tag or add the test lead in the CC. Or when the daily meetings happen regarding the process or regarding the development process or testing process, then raise this issue in the meeting. And while raising the issue, you can talk about the bug detail, so why it is occurring, still occurring, or why it is occurring in other systems as well. If team lead manager is accepting this as a defect or bug, then send email and inform why this is a bug to respective developer, CC to the development lead, test manager, BA or PO. So if testers or if developer or the development team lead is accepting it as a bug, then you can send email and inform why this is a bug, or record the video while testing the bug, or add more screenshots and report it to the respective developer, add development test lead uh, and test manager or BA and PO to the CC. Next is, what is the difference between front end and back end testing? We know there are two parts of developing, that is front end development and back end development. So while testing the front end part, we can say it is a front end testing, and while testing the back end part, we can say it is a back end testing. So testing is performed on the user interface or presentation layer of the application. That is front end testing. If you remember what front end developers do, they'll they'll develop the GUI part of the system, that is graphical user interface, whatever we are able to see, whatever you are able to experience. So that is the front end part, and back end part is the schema of the application or the backbone of the application. So whatever part which we can easily see or which is visible, that is front end testing, which is a part of presentation layer. And testing is performed on the application business logic and database, that is backend testing. So there are basically three layers: presentation layer, business logic, or database. So whatever we need to tests at the backend, it is basically to test the code, or basically to test the logic written for the particular system. Uh, to perform front-end testing, testers should have the knowledge of business requirements as well as automation tools. We need to have knowledge of the requirements. What are the requirements for a particular system? And also the automation tools. Uh, in case of backend testing, to perform it, testers should have strong knowledge of database queries and API testing tools. So if you are testing the database or business logic, then you should have the knowledge of database queries. And also these days API is also mm, high in the market. So API testing tools as well. In front end testing, we test the overall functionality of the application. And in back end testing, we test any kind of data corruption or data loss. So these are few important points. Next question is, what is the difference between load testing and performance testing? Performance testing is concerned with evaluating the overall availability, response time, speed, stability of the application. And load testing is a technique which is used to verify whether the application can handle the expected load given to it under a particular scenario. Performance testing is nothing but overall performance of the application, how quick it responds to a particular functionality, or how quickly it traverses through different modules, right? And in case of load testing, uh, how many users can work on the application at the same time? This is load. So it is just to verify whether the application can handle the expected load in given time and under particular scenario. Second point is, the goal of the performance testing is to determine how an application operates under typical conditions. Performance is not, performance testing is nothing but to test the application in under different scenarios or under different conditions. Its performance should be as expected only. The goal of load testing is to check how the application handles the increasing load. If you keep on increasing the load gradually, then we can test how application handles the increasing load. In performance testing, the load limit is both below and above the threshold limit. There is some threshold limit. There is a certain limit above and below which we will test the behavior of the application. So how does it perform under different conditions or under different limits? In case of load testing, the load limit only up to the threshold limit. We don't go beyond the threshold limit here. We will test the application only up to the threshold limit. Performance testing covers different types like load testing, stress testing, etc. And load testing is a part of performance testing. As we discussed, we test the performance of the application below and above the threshold limit. So there are different names for that as well. And the concepts like load testing, stress testing, strain testing, these come under performance testing. And load testing is a part of performance testing. I hope these points are clear to you. Next question is, what are different types of tests you perform on a web application? You know what is a web application, right? Suppose Amazon, Flipkart, these websites are very well known to everyone. So these are the web applications. So different types of tests we perform on a web application, and these would be functional testing, performance testing, database testing, API testing, compatibility testing, usability testing, security testing. We know we have to test all the functions of the testing, that is a functional testing. We also need to test the performance and behavioral changes of the application by increasing load and all these cases. Database testing, we have to check the data loss and other things. Compatibility, applications compatibility with uh, other browsers as well and other applications as well. Usability testing is how to use the application in a particular way, its use and according to the user's perspective, how the application performs. Security testing, how secure your application is, because your data shouldn't be um, easily accessible to others as well. So how secure your application can be, that is security testing. Now, last question of the video is what do you mean by exhaustive testing? So, exhaustive testing is a technique used to test all the possible combinations available for the functionality. Uh, this is exhaustive testing is nothing but as many number of test cases or as many number of scenarios you have to test all those test cases or scenarios. You have to execute all of them, and you have to achieve maximum coverage possible. That is exhaustive testing. The aim of the testing technique is to try all the data combinations without leaving any scope for further testing. So we have to test each and every possible inputs or data combinations without leaving any scope. Exhaustive testing is also called as complete test. So this is uh, all about today's video. Thank you so much.